Hey everyone, George here. I know I'm part of the podcast and I'm doing a bumper for the podcast, and that's weird, but whatever. I just want to let you know that Greg and I do another podcast, PlayStation Power, where we talk about PlayStation, PlayStation 2, and we recently decided to cover PlayStation Portable games, and that's quite fun. Not family friendly in any way, but is still a great listen, and hope to see you there. On top of that, I also do Master System Masterpieces, where we talk about the Master System. Greg was on an episode of that, and we covered Phantasy Star, and that was fun. So hopefully you listen to any of those, and just, thanks for listening to anything that we do. Seriously.
$200, a Super Nintendo setup costs twice as much as the old system. For the money, the company promises better pictures, sound, and adventure. Now you're playing with power, superpower. You're the king, I tell you! The king!
Only for Super NES. You're listening to the SNES podcast with your hosts, Soul Blazer and George.
Hello everybody, this is Super NES Podcast episode number 93 coming to you this time. I'm Greg, joined by always, by George.
Why did I do this to myself?
Because you're a sucker for punishment?
Maybe? I don't know.
This is also a deep game cover for our podcast, so we're only going to scratch the surface with this sucker.
Basically, yeah. Unless I just get really real on this and just like, you know what? But we'll see.
Well, I have a lot of history of this series, so probably if you hadn't picked a game's franchise, I would have eventually, so...
Oh man, you should have picked it so I could hate you, and not myself.
No, you already hated me from... you already hated me for the last episode, so...
I don't know about hated, it was just like I didn't really like the game.
Right. Well, we're talking about a game that's very, very popular, though, at least, so I think people are going to be interested in hearing about this. Although, of course, its popularity was much more greater on computers, as opposed to consoles. We're covering this episode, Ultima 6, The False Prophet. The sixth game in the long-running Ultima franchise. It originally came out for a computer in 1990, and the Super NES version of this game was developed by Infinity and published by FCI in Japan and North America in April of 1994. So quite a few years after the original PC version came out, which was kind of surprising to find out about. So, there are numerous podcasts, articles, TV shows, you name it out there talking about the Ultima franchise. Mm-hmm. So I'm only going to give a very, very quick Cliff Notes version like with the franchise, so as not to bore tears anybody out there who may not care too much about it. But
can you talk about Spaceman?
Spacemen are like in some of the games, yes.
But I mean Mr. Spaceman himself, the one who sold his mansion to go into space.
Oh, yes, Richard Garrett, a.k.a. Lord British.
Yes.
He's a fascinating character. He is a hoot to watch being interviewed. I definitely recommend watching some of his stuff. Yes, Richard Garrett originally came up with the idea for Ultima when he was way back in college, and the very first Ultima game came out way back in what now seems like the very old year of 1981.
Oh, I remember that year. That's when the stuff and the things happened.
There were 9 games officially as part of the main franchise, which are loosely divided like into ages. The age of darkness, Ultima 1 through 3, the age of enlightenment, Ultima 4 through 6, and the age of Armageddon, 7 through 9. This is important because this game does kind of tie important partly because all these games do kind of set up as sequels to one another. A lot of the same elements, characters, places, ideas, etc. carry over like from game to game. So. And there was a whole bunch of other spin-off games done as well. There was the Ultima Underworld games. 2 of those were kind of like early first-person dungeon crawler games. There was an online game like for a while that came out. There were a bunch of console-only games that were created like the franchise. One of the most expensive computer games of all time is known as Ultima Escape from Mount Drash, 1983 by Sierra Online. Not very common with the other game. The game's not very common. It's like a little print run, but also didn't have too much to do with the franchise per se, except for some of the rough ideas. Very, very rare games, I mentioned. VIC 20 only. When a copy of the game turns up on eBay, it usually sells for $10,000.
That doesn't sound about right.
So yeah, one of the best console Ultima games I think was probably like Ultima, like Runes of Virtue. There were two games like in that spin-off. Both games were on the Game Boy. The second game also got ported to Super NES. I've not played the second game. The first game I remember, the first game I played as a kid when it came out, and it was like pretty fun. So there was also a short-lived Ultima Forever Quest for the Avatar online game back in 2012 that ran for a couple of years. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh.
And Ultima's not dead. It's not dead. Richard Garrett and company are currently working upon a new Ultima game known as Shroud of the Avatar, like Forsaken Virtues. Which was kickstarted several years ago, in which I also backed, and which is still in development. They can't use the Ultima name the Ultima name itself because the Ultima name is like owned by EA, which purchased Origin, the original creators of the Ultima series a while back. But it basically is Ultima, as far as everything goes.
I'm afraid to see how that pans out because it seems like the more modern games that he's released they've just died. They've just fallen
he's only
flat
the
on their
creative.
face.
Yeah, he's only the creative director behind the project.
Right.
He's not doing any of the heavy hitting like of the game. But there's a lot of veterans attached to the project, and development's coming along pretty steadily. So
we'll see what happens with it then.
Yep. So the last official Ultima game in the franchise, Ultima 9, came out back in 1990. Should I have the year here?
It was a 3D game, so
yeah,
not that old.
1999.
There you go.
There was supposed to be a 10th game in the franchise, but that got canceled. So yeah, and
probably because 9 wasn't so great.
9 had issues. 9 was definitely one of the weaker games of the franchise. But then again,
I wonder why.
But then again, the first 3 games, the first 3 games in the franchise are very hard to go back to these days and play because how old and primitive that they are. They're still fun, I think, but a lot of the modern conveniences that even showed up in later Ultima games, for example, like this one, were not present like in those early games because of how old they are. So
conveniences? There are no conveniences in this game.
There's a few.
Okay, all right. You know what? You got me on that. But you know what? A lot of this game is inconvenient.
Well, it definitely
it is.
Yeah.
Are you agreeing? Or are you just trying to shut me up?
Well, I agree to a point because
okay.
I was going to say, I've talked about this before in the past. The Ultima games are really one of the best examples of the genre games that we now call Western RPGs.
Yes.
Like our computer RPGs, because RPGs kind of fell into 2 main camps early on. You had the Western style of RPGs, which are more combat based. They're more action paced.
You mean games that are more like action RPGs?
A little bit like that, but like early the Ultima games were just some of the first most popular like the computer RPGs to come out. Because I said the Ultima series started like way back in 1981. So
right.
You also had the Bard's Tale series, the Wizardry series, Might and Magic. Those are like really old 80s based computer RPGs that kind of fit like in that mode.
They're still making Might and Magics. Do you know that?
Yes.
It's crazy. I have one of the newer ones, and it's actually pretty good. Believe it or not.
Bard's Tale has a new game. Like his new game development like right now too. Also being kickstarted.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So, but
hopefully it's not like that. What is the PlayStation Xbox?
That was okay. I mean, like
that was alright, but it wasn't like true Bard's Tale.
True, exactly. Yep. I hear you. I agree with you on that. So, conversely, across the ocean in Japan, you had around this time you also had the development of a different style of RPGs, which we now know as the JRPG, like the Japanese RPG. Those games focused a lot more upon story than upon character development. And much more anime-based and cartoony, like in their graphics. Obviously, the big three franchises are Final Fantasy, Dragon Warrior, now known as Dragon Quest, like Phantasy Star. But
Phantasy Star. Yeah. How much money would you pay for that to come back?
Quite a bit.
And I don't mean like Phantasy Star the way it is now.
Yeah.
Which, like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I do like that kind of Phantasy Star, but
there are still underground servers like running Phantasy Star like online. So it's always.
Oh yeah, no, I know. I signed up for one of them.
But. So, and for a long time, you pretty much had JRPGs on consoles, and Western RPGs like computers, and never the two shall meet. It was really only recently, within the last, I'd say maybe like 5-6 years, that you really started to have those two genres kind of blending together some. We started to have computer RPGs showing up like consoles, and console RPGs like showing up like in computers. So nowadays, those old hard lines don't apply as much anymore as they used to, but they still kind of fit to a point. Like modern Western RPGs, for example, you have the BioWare stuff, you have the Telltale stuff. Like games of that nature. Whereas, the Japanese style RPGs, like Square Enix and Atlas, are the ones who still like cranking those out.
So, to just to name a few games, stuff like Neverwinter Nights, and on the other side, things like Final Fantasies and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. So the lines between them are blurred now. More so than they used to be. For the longest time, these games are these games are very different, and and they appeal to very different gamers. I mean, JRPGs are mostly aimed more toward kids, especially in Japan. They were more, kids and teens were the main audience for those. So big, for example, that one of the this is a famous story. One of the Dragon Quest games in Japan was so popular that when it came out, on a Tuesday, which is the same day that we use over here in the States to launch new games. The game was so popular. There's like 100,000 people taking time off from work and school and whatnot to buy the game. The Japanese government stepped in after that and passed a law mandating that no new RPGs could be released any other day of the week except for Saturdays.
I thought it was big games couldn't be released unless it was a Sunday.
You may be right.
Because over there, Saturdays are half days where people work and go to school for half a day.
Yeah, you're right.
I think it might be actually Sundays.
I think it was Sunday. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So, but anyway,
which is it's understandable because it's you have people taking off every month,
So whereas over here in the West, computer games were for a long time played by adults. Cerebral people really wanted a challenge and a really complex game where they had make maps and take notes and that kind of stuff. So
Here in the U.S., if
yeah.
you took off to get a game, you'd just get fired. They wouldn't change the law.
Didn't stop people from playing playing late into the night trying to figure out where the next town was, but yeah. The first 3 Ultima games in particular really emphasize that part because those games are very. I mean, they give you think. This game, George, gives you no hints. Those other games give you no hints, but they are very, very difficult to figure out. So
I don't know. I think I would be able to figure out more in those older games than this game because honestly, I played this a bit, and honestly, I talked to everybody and I looked at everything, and it's just wow, they hardly give you anything, whereas I honestly, and I'm not saying this is the worst game ever, but I feel like they missed a few things on this game, and some kind of direction is one of them. And I don't mean it has to be a game where they tell you every little thing you need to do. That's not fun, but talking to a guard, the guard captain or whatever, saying that, oh, these gargoyles are at this at this shrine that's close to us, and that's the only clue you have. You don't even know what's around you, and also the game feels pretty linear because you can't even really go that far off the roads. We'll get into it soon.
Yeah, I agree with that partly because, the Age of Enlightenment series were much more complex games than the first trilogy. The Ultima games did eventually pick up plots. The plot features pretty heavily this game.
Well, I mean, all of them have plots. Even the first game, you had to kill somebody who was invincible.
But they're very, 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 very simple plots. I mean, the plots for the Age of Enlightenment series, were a lot more complex. Not as complex
I think
as
those
JRPG.
stories had better build up than just this game in general because. You have I forget which one it is, but the one where you become the avatar and stuff like that.
Oh, 4.
That's a great build up, and then this game is just I don't know, these monsters are here, and then they're actually not bad guys. They're just looking for stuff because their thing is gone. It went bye and now they're just being hot. I don't know. If you look at this story, let's say you've played all the Ultima games before this. From beginning to end, and you played this game and you look at the story kind of just doesn't make sense, and it has a couple of holes in it. It's honestly, I'd argue to say that the story isn't really that great.
Right. Well, we will get into it, but the final point I was going to make was that the complexity of this game, as the complexity increased, it also increased the complexity as far as trying to figure things out. Because even though these games are not quite as linear as the first games are, I can see them being just as complex. Because as you add meat to the game, at playing time, you also tend to add more things to do and places to go see and things to do and whatnot, and make things more difficult to do. So
there's nothing wrong with complexity in a game, but the way that this game is complex is just it's just not in good ways.
I was gonna make some hints and tips toward the end of the podcast, but I'll say one of them right now. There's no shame in looking up an FAQ for this game before you start playing it, because
not at all.
Because it certainly, I mean, the game, the computer version of the game came with a map originally, so I don't think there's any harm in looking up a map. But something else the Ultima series was famous for, FEWEs. Those date back to a bygone era of computer games from the 80s and 90s, where Infocom made this famous, but Origin did a lot with their games. They would include bonuses in the box. Sometimes it was tied into copy protection. Sometimes there was just extra stuff to add gameplay. But you'd have things like cloth maps and coins and books with extra background material where you read into it. You gave you some hints and clues for the game and that kind of stuff. And I miss that stuff. Playing video games as often and as much as I played console games over the years growing up. I used to love that. I used to love that stuff. Working Designs did a good job of it too, their games also. like the games they brought over in the States, like the FOE stuff. So, yeah, this game originally came with a map. So,
I'm sure it did.
So this game got ported. So this game got ported to a bunch of other computers. A lot of them like Japanese only. You had the FM Towns, the PC 9801, and the X, like the Sharp X68000, which we've talked about before in the past. All three of those were popular like Japanese computer games. It also came out on the Commodore. It also came out like on the Commodore 64. This was the last Ultima game to come out on the C64. This was also the first game in the series that did not come out on the Apple II, which were the series actually started at. By 1990, the 8-bit market was starting to die off as 16-bit systems came on strong, both for consoles and computers. So the C64 version of the game just has some severe limitations to it, even more so than the Super NES ports. And besides DOS, this game also came out like on the Amiga and the Atari ST. So let's talk a little bit about the companies behind the development of the Super NES port, because these are kind of actually interesting. We've talked about Infinity in the past, but I don't know if you remember this, George. Infinity was the company that actually handled the porting of Wing Commander over the Super NES.
Right, I remember that.
So, they were primarily a Japanese company in the sense that most of their games came out in Japan only. They were around from 1986 to 2012. So they had a long history. A lot of games came out for multiple systems, from the NES all the way up to the DS and the PS2. But most of their games were Japan only. Their most popular games, they had a relationship with Origin early on. So like they handled a lot of the Ultima games coming out on consoles, including this one. They also handled Populous, like the Super NES as well.
Oh.
So, going down the list here, like real quick. Like I said, a lot of their games were Japan only. Those games are the ones they were most famous for, I think. They also did some Tamagotchi games that came out here in the West, back when Tamagotchi was a thing and whatnot.
That's funny that you bring that up. I was searching apps on my phone recently, and I hate to get sidetracked, but you just brought that up. There's a Tamagotchi app, and it's like Gen 1. Like, it emulates like Gen 1.
Oh, wow.
I know, right? I was like, what? Like, do people play this? This is weird.
They probably do a little bit.
Probably. It's just, it's so weird that, like, out of all the things, like, they went and made, like, and, like, this is, like, from, the company that put them out. I'm drawing a blank right now. But, you know.
Oh, Bandai.
Yeah, Namco Bandai put this out. It's like a legitimate app. So.
Back when Bandai was just Bandai, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, obviously they're combined, so you gotta bring up that other one, you know. But yes. Anyway, not to get sidetracked there.
No, that's fine. So the publisher is also quite interesting. Fujisaki Communications International, to use their full name, more commonly known as FCI, was the company that published this game. They were quite active in the video game publishing market back in the 8-bit and 16-bit days. They handled a lot of the a lot of the North American translations of games released in Japan by a company called Pony Cannon, which is actually another group. Like both Pony Cannon and FCI were owned by the same parent company, like Japan, the Fumijaki Communications Group. They're well known. Besides their Ultima series, they handled publishing. They handled the publishing for Origin for many of the Ultima games. They also handled the publishing for a lot of the Dungeons & Dragons games during this time period. You may also know this, George. They also later on they also started handling. They also were responsible for handling publishing some wrestling games.
Oh, okay.
Like WCW Super Brawl Wrestling and WCW The Main Event.
Oh God, yeah, okay, yep. All right, yeah. I know those games.
Yeah, they also published a Might and Magic 3 over here, also on the Super NES. They also were in development. They also were developing a Super NES version of Wing Commander 2, the PC game, before it was canceled. FCI closed the video game division like in the early 90s to focus upon television operations, which is what they're still doing today.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yep. So they're still around, but no longer making games. But FCI had a pretty good track record, I think. They were pretty. I mean, like, they pretty much published regardless of the quality of the game. It was like an Ultima game, or D&D game. So it's that some of their games are good, some of their games weren't. But they were just the publishers. I mean, they were just the ones who were responsible for making the game, responsible for releasing the games.
Depending on what games you played and what hardware, like. Some of you people probably have seen FCI's name in a lot of places. Mm-hmm. Honestly, the only other thing right now I can think of is they did the port of Bard's Tale for NES.
Yes, they did. Yep, and that was a pretty good port.
Yeah, it was not too bad. It definitely looked better than some of the other PC ports, but
true.
It obviously had some things missing, like certain references to things, but. Mm-hmm. In general, it's still a good port to play.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
So, let's talk a little bit about our Ultima history here. I obviously am much older than George, so
you are.
So I have a long history like the franchise. I remember playing this game in Uncle's house when I was like 6 years old, the very first game. So obviously I had no idea what the heck I was doing, but I maybe want to play the games as I looked like they got older. So I borrowed some of the games from friends, because money was tight as far as actually buying games back then. So
don't copy that floppy.
It wasn't copies actually. It was I actually borrowed copies.
Okay.
Complete box of copy protection. The copy protection in this series was pretty good. You need the copy protection, especially for Ultima 6. So, Ultima. I played all 3 Age of Enlightenment games when they came out, like the PC, and really liked all of them. I also played the later games. I played the earlier games several years ago. Both GOG and Steam has available now, available on there for cheap. The whole franchise. They're broken into the Age trilogy, so you can buy like the first 3 in one pack, the next 3 in one pack, and so on and so on.
You can also buy them individually on EA's Origin system.
Probably for more money than you could like on GOG though.
Well, they're all piecemeal. They're not packaged together. So that's where I have them.
Yep. And I have the collection from GOG because it's a very good collection on there. Like they run great, like in DOSBox or whatever, whatever your emulator that they're using on. And so I played the early. I played all nine games in the series at one point or another. I had not played any Ultima games on consoles too much. I played Ultima 4, the first NES one, quite a bit. I also played, like I said before, the Ultima Game Boy game, which I really enjoyed a lot, because there's a lot of differences between playing a game ported over to console and versus a game that was designed for console, like the ground up, which would be
when it comes to Ultima 4 on NES, I don't know how much further away you can get from the original.
Yeah, it's a pretty rough port. But
I don't know about rough. I haven't played it. I think I own it, but I haven't played it yet. But I'm talking more about how how different it is. It's just just like basically a completely different game.
True. Well, at least about Ultima 6, I think. I mean, there were differences. There were a lot of differences, actually, matter of fact, which we'll get into here later on. But
right.
I think this game plays pretty close to the PC version, all things considered. So, what about your history of the franchise,
enough.
George?
I honestly don't remember where I found this stuff out, but I found it somewhere online a while ago. And it's stuff that I was interested in. I played a little bit of a few of the games, and you know, I think this was like around the time where some people that I watched online like did reviews of the games and everything, and it was like, oh, this is really cool. And yeah, so I never finished any of the Ultima games, but I have a little bit of experience with some of them.
If you know what you're doing, like, and have a map and walkthrough handy, like, you can get through the first 3 games in about, like, a few hours. So.
Honestly, I think you could say that for a lot of games like that.
Well, I mean, like, you know, we might have mentioned here, the average...
That's the point, though, because, like, you're not supposed to know what you're doing until you figure it out. Like, that's the way that's how you get the playtime out of it.
Yeah, and the average, and the consensus online, there's the average playtime of this game is like around like 40-50 hours.
Right.
Whereas the fastest speed run that I found on like YouTube for this game,
7 minutes.
No, it's actually longer. It's actually longer than you might think. Because I said this is like an RPG, so
I found a tool assisted that was like 7 minutes.
Yeah. No tool assist, played properly as it's supposed to be. Just the speed run I found is just under like 8 hours.
Okay, that's believable.
Yeah, so
that's a long speed run, but
yeah. Well, like I said, it's not. It's a CRPG. It's not really possible to speed run it.
I don't know. I mean, like there are probably some bugs that were not found by the developers around that time.
Oh yeah, there's bugs in this game. Like, we'll get into that too.
Yeah.
But
well, when it comes to these games, there's got to be something, right? Something hidden away. It's like if you get this ring at this time of day at this area that nobody goes to, then like this spider appears, and then you can teleport everywhere. And it's like, what?
So this is our first time playing this game on the Super NES. What made you want to pick this game, George, compared to some of the other Ultima games that are available on the console?
I don't know. I ask myself this every time I go to bed. Every time I look at myself in the mirror. I don't know. I might have mistaken some of the games. I'm not 100% sure.
It's possible because it gets confusing. Like confusing. Just like I said, like 3 and 4 got ported like to the NES. I'm sorry, 2 and 3 got ported to the NES. 4 got ported to the Master System.
Yes, which Master System, having a faithful port of Ultima, but still being an 8-bit console.
Yep. And 5 also came out like on the NES as well. Most of the Ultima games are available on consoles, which I found surprising. Besides,
it's very interesting.
Yeah. Besides 6, the Ultima 7 also came out on the Super NES, and there was also a Japan-only game called Ultima: The Savage Empire, which was a graphical update using the Blackgate engine that Ultima, your Ultima 7 uses.
I don't know if that was just Japanese only. Maybe the console version was.
This is a different game than this is a different game than Ultima 7. Ultima 7: The Black Gate is a different game from Ultima Savage Empire.
Savage Empire still came out on PCs over here.
Yes, it did. But
right. So
the Super NES
my question is, or I was right in asking my question. It was Japanese only on console.
Yes, it was playing here over the States, got canceled, and there is available like a fan patch like for it.
I'm sure there's.
Yeah. So and then the last Ultima game to come out on the Super NES, as I mentioned earlier, was a port of Runes of Virtue 2 for like the Game Boy, which was designed from the ground up to be like a console game. So there's four Ultima games available in Super NES. So now it's been about 10 years since I played Ultima 6 last, I think, on the PC. So I remember this game. So I have pretty fond memories of this game. I remember being like very, very good. One of my favorite Ultima games in the franchise. Not
this one.
Yes, Ultima 6. Ooh. Not my favorite game in the series, but 4, 5, and 6 for me are my favorite games of the franchise period, because I think like the first 3 games are kind of simple, and the last 3 games went very heavy 3D action slogging kind of like gameplay style. Some of the changes they made those other games didn't sit as well with me. Like, if there's still like decent games, Ultima 7, when it got finally like patched, turned out to be like a very, very good game, I think. Ultima 8 also eventually came out to be like pretty good, but the fans had to like save that one. And Ultima 9, the less said about that one, the better.
Just everything about it. I still want to play it, believe it or not, but just everything about that game.
It's okay. Just the problems. There are a lot of problems. There's
a lot of bugs. Just
a lot
in
of
general.
Bugs, yes. Yeah. Ultima 8. Ultima 7 and 8 were all. Yeah, all three of those games were pretty buggy when they first came out, but Origin eventually got the bugs fixed on 7. The fans eventually fixed the bugs in 8. 9 never really got like fully patched, unfortunately. So.
Say unfortunately, but that just goes to show that nobody really cares about that game.
But yeah, the overall plot idea for the overall plot idea for the Age of trilogy, like this trilogy, the Age of Enlightenment, was really unique and groundbreaking. Like the time, it was really like original and groundbreaking for like the time period that it came out on.
Right.
No other game has really done it since then. The whole idea behind it being like, and this is something I really like in the series. You're basically you have your normal life in this world that you're doing and you're doing your living. You have a job, you have a family, you have like your friends.
You have a TV?
You have a TV, and every now and then you either are called upon to go to go upon Britannia, or you stumble upon it, or decide to just go there because you're bored, which is kind of like happens. Which happens like some of the games. So I really love that. I like as an idea, as a concept. Basically, like you're you, and every now and then you go off to this other world, this other world had this look up there. You have this like whole different life, different fantasy quest. Adventures, that kind of stuff, and then you just come back to this world and like, okay, that's done, move on.
The one thing that's missing from this version is the whole because in the PC version, didn't they ask you questions to help build up your character? Yeah, for some reason that just wasn't a thing in this game.
That was copy protection, like Ultima 6, so that's why I took it out.
Was it copy protection?
Yeah.
Are you sure about that? I thought it changed your stats.
Let me confirm that.
I could have sworn it changed your stats. But also, like, on top of that, I think you could also, like, just create a character in general, and it could be either a male or a female, whereas in this port, you're just a man.
True.
Right?
Yep, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So...
I'm just making sure on that.
Right. Yeah, it says here it was part of the copy protection.
Really?
Yeah, it did affect your stats. You're right about that, but it also did that as well. So,
okay.
But anyway, yeah. So, and so the Age of Enlightenment also featured the whole avatar system, which as George just mentioned. You were asked a bunch of questions. Questions which are called virtue questions. Which kind of depend upon. Which influence who you are as a character and as a person. And it's possible to beat the game regardless of the answer that you make. But some builds are easier than other builds.
Right.
Depending upon your system.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So the plot for Ultima 6, like I said, all the Ultima games do follow one another pretty much in their plots. Maybe not directly, but there are elements, ideas, places, characters, whatever that carry over like from game to game. In this one, you're called upon to go. In this one. In this one, you stumble upon going back to Britannia by accident. I think there's like a lightning storm and like a circle of like stones and whatnot. So this is one of the games where we're not really quite prepared to go back to Britannia yet, but you did, and you seem what you hadn't, because you find out that things are kind of like very wrong here, because you find out that that even though Lord Britannia, Lord British has returned to power in Britannia based upon your actions like ordinary games, you're captured and about to be sacrificed by gargoyles. when three of your companions suddenly show up, like, and save you, like you're known as the Avatar of this game. And you find out that the Gargoyles are fighting Lord British to try to, like, gain control of, like, the country. Then you have to recapture the shrines of virtue that the Gargoyles have captured, and you go up in a quest to be able to save them. And you're also, like the name implies, a lot of people think that you're a false prophet. They don't believe you. They don't believe that you're you. Basically, they don't believe that you're a righteous character, and you have a lot of, like, pessimism and a lot of antagonism and hatred to overcome as you go through this game. So, for the time it came out, a pretty good plotline, I thought. Maybe not quite as deeper developed as as one season of modern CRPG, but I remember, like, but it was, like, pretty fun to play through with, like, the time, I thought.
I don't know. There's just so many questions because, oh geez, what was it? So I don't know every single detail about all these games, but I know
and it really helps
the general story.
Yeah, it really helps to have previous knowledge knowledge of Ultima games.
So, like, the game before, I believe, like, at the end of that game, you took a book or something. And that book belonged to the Gargoyles, and they needed it. So they're in this game now because they're taking over shrines because they need that sort of power or something. Yes. But the problem is, like, if that was the problem, why didn't the Gargoyles just come and try to be diplomatic before they started trying to kill everybody and taking over the shrines? So there's that, but then there's also Lord British being kind of racist in a way and not wanting to work with them until, like, the end. And there's so many questions because it's like, I don't know, if you play throughout this whole game and look at the story, it's like, why this, why that, why the other thing? It's like, why didn't they just ask, why didn't they just do this? Why is this guy being that way? And I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because actually, like, those themes are like those themes are these central themes that this game explores. This game was very groundbreaking and somewhat controversial when it first came out because of the fact it dealt very heavily with racism and xenophobia. Because
you're not talking about controversial. What about pagan?
Pagan more so,
just in the box, the box cover.
But yeah, you find out as the game goes on that the Gargoyles have very valid reasons for valid reasons like for loathing you, partly based upon, like George mentioned earlier, that book that you stole. And to win the game, you have to reconcile these two very different, seemingly opposing cultures of, like, man and gargoyle, and that kind of, so that's what I said. This game was pretty groundbreaking when it came out because of that stuff. Because, like, not many games dealt with these themes back then. I mean, you have to remember this game came out originally for PC back in 1990.
Right.
So, I mean, like, I really like that.
I don't know, it still kind of feels haphazardly put together.
Given the limitations of the hardware system at the time.
I see what they're doing there, but, like, I don't know what it is that they just... Some things are overshadowed, some things are not really fleshed out, some things just don't make that much sense.
And I think part of that probably depends upon knowledge upon, some of that really depends upon you having knowledge past Ultima games. So this is a hard game to pick up and play. You really have to be a fan of the style game or the Ultima series.
To have a lot of patience.
Well, patience helps too, but patience helps, like, in all the Ultima games.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
But yeah, the actual gameplay follows a style similar to past Ultima games. You're looking the world at a top-down map, then a top-down game screen. You have companions with you, a party of 4. And you basically just select characters, and you can do, and you're pushing a button brings up a menu where you can select commands to pick whatnot, and the text shows up, and the text shows up, shows up on the bottom of the screen. So graphically, the game I think is pretty good. it follows the style. There are obviously graphical differences between this game and the original PC version. There's definitely
they look similar enough, though.
They do. They do. They look similar enough.
The one of the big differences is that there's no text parser here.
True.
That's kind of a big part of this game on the computer. Is typing out certain commands and
yes, the game screen was the game screen was redesigned slightly.
Right.
So
and also like when you talk to people like on the computer version, you need to basically know and remember certain like keywords, whereas like in this game
like that. Yep.
Right. Yep. Whereas in this port, obviously you can't really type, so these keywords are kind of unlocked through conversation,
and that's you're
able to use them. What's up?
That's change I really like. That makes the game easier a little bit. Like having those keywords saved.
I guess so. But then you can't ask them about weird stuff.
Yeah. So the graphics definitely have Super NES look to them, I think. They definitely have a very consoleized look.
It's accurate to the computer version, though.
It is, yeah. I mean,
yes.
The colors. It's accurate. It's accurate at the same time. The colors and graphics do look a bit Super NES-ized.
Yes.
I think it just invented a word there, but.
SNES-ized me, Captain.
Yeah. So did you have any problems with the graphics? With the graphics or the interface you're getting around?
Oh, the interface. Oh, me, oh my.
Let's get
I'm
into
not
that.
sure. I'm not sure if it counts as the interface. I guess it might, but like picking up items, it's kind of Oh man, like every time you want to look at anything that is not on the screen, you have to go through the pause menu, the equipment menu. And that's the worst part, because that stuff, I believe, is all there on the computer version. Like, you can look at it right there, and obviously you're also using a mouse to control all that stuff, so it's nice and
mouse
fluid.
And a keyboard. Keyboards are always
Right.
keyboards are always needed for these games.
Of course,
So,
but I mean, like, just like going through the equipment menu, you're just using your mouse, and it's much easier there. But it's just, oh man, and it's so funny because like, even in the PC version, the SNES version is really alike with this, but like, you can't tell what's what just by looking at it. You have to like examine, like in-game examine to see what items are what. Because it just like, it's like, is that a torch? What is that? Is that just fake dog poop? What is this? And it's just, but also, it's just, the main point is just, it's tedious and annoying to go through the menu, and it's like, there's not really a better way to do this due to the SNES limitations.
Yes.
But it's still a problem point for this game. Like, anything you do, anything you want to do, and then also, like, if you want to use a torch, like, you have to make sure you have a free hand, but then, like, once it becomes daytime and your torch hasn't run out, like, you can't get rid of it unless you, like, throw it out or something, and oh my god. You should take the other half of this ranting.
Well, I find it frustrating and difficult too. Maybe not to the degree that you did, but because I understand. I understand on one hand, the programmers did the best they could with Super NES Pad, because you had to cram down this complex interface into like 4 buttons. 4 buttons in a pad. So
I want to know how many people went crazy, like, trying to do this. Just went insane. I have to do what?
So, well, I mean, this game was meant for a different market. Like I said before, console and computer gaming markets could not cross over for the longest time. So,
right.
This game was meant for a different market. Curiously enough, this game was primarily meant for Japan. And it came out in the U.S. as kind of a secondary afterthought, because, curiously enough, even though the series was a Western RPG, it did very popular in Japan. Up to the point where actually up to the point several games got released with tie-in anime, anime and a magnet produced as well. So
really?
yeah.
I didn't know that.
So, like, the console versions of these games were primarily aimed at the Japanese market. That's why some of the games came out in Japan only. And, like, so it's kind of afterthought to kind of like release it over here in North America, on the console. And so, it's aimed at a different market. People playing this game probably did not know about the original interface, / controls / whatever that the computer version of the game had. So, I mean, they didn't know any better. It's like learn to adapt to it. Coming to this game from the computer version when you had like 20 buttons condensed down to 4, yes, that's very frustrating and very difficult to get used to. But I think if you approach this from the mindset of somebody back then who didn't play on the computer first, and this is your first exposure to it, then you tolerated it. I agree with you. It was never ideal. It was never like great. This is a problem that all Ultima games on consoles had, by the way. The NES ones as well. But you just simply like dealt with it because that's what you had. That's what you dealt with. So
I kind of wish there was like support for the mouse for some of these games.
Yeah, but still the keyboard. But you go the mouse route, you really had to have the keyboard too, so...
No, you could have mouse in one hand, gamepad in the other.
Yeah, I suppose, but I guess
that wasn't really in the mindset until, like, somewhat recently, because...
Somewhat recently, yes.
You don't really see any of that stuff until, like last generation,
True. Yep, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, the game itself ran pretty smoothly. I mean, there were a few slowdown spots, but not too much. I noticed a pause, like whenever the game would get ready to expose the contents of a room, like when you crossed over one room to another, the game had filled in for you. Slight pause there, not that bad.
I had to draw everything in, so...
Yeah. So, again, the Super NES had a limited, less powerful processor memory than what the original computer version did, so,
I think another annoying thing was the whole music stuff, and this goes deep into the PC version too, but randomly you'll just be listening to one song. Actually, you could be playing for a while and listen to the same song on loop for a while, and then just out of nowhere, the music will just cut to something different for no reason. There's no rhyme or reason, but also there's hardly any songs in this game. I want to say when I played, I only noticed 3 different songs.
You'd be surprised to how many songs there actually are listed on the Super NES OST this game.
Right. Well, see, that's the problem. How do you access those songs in the game?
Well, there's 14 songs altogether.
Wow, because I only heard 3.
Well, some of I play during let me start off by saying this is a pretty faithful recreation of the music like the PC version. So the PC version,
the way that it works and the way that it sounds. Yes.
So some of these songs play only once or in certain parts of the game. For example, you only hear dungeon music you're in dungeons. You only hear the end game music during the end game. You only hear the introduction music during the introduction, etc., etc. So right there, that limits the number of songs available to you.
Okay, well, I was talking about when you're in the game playing it. Yes, there's different music for the introduction and the ending and everything. Yes, but when I literally sat down and played the game, there was only 2 or 3 songs that I've heard.
There was maybe 4 songs I heard regularly. 1 dungeon piece, and then also 3 overworld pieces. Right. So,
but it gets so annoying.
It's limited soundtrack. Yeah, you're right. I mean, but all the Ultima
also,
games,
like I said, it doesn't. There's no rhyme or reason to why some of the songs change. Yeah. They'll cut out and change to a different song, and it's not because battle started. It's not because you went into this pub or whatever. It's no, just because it felt like it for some reason. Have you noticed that?
I did. I mean, I just. It's a bit annoying, but I think there's things. I think there's things going on behind the scenes that we're not really aware about on the overworld. So again, the graphics. I was annoyed by this, but I wasn't as annoyed by this as you apparently were.
Well, they're kind of just short loops, and it just gets annoying after a while. You know?
They're short songs, yes. That I fully agree with. But again, because 1990, I mean, like, you know, sound cards for computers were still a pretty new thing back then. A lot of people didn't have or care about computer music that they were like later years. So I mean, like, you know, music Ultima games until the last game was always an afterthought. So I mean, like, you're just dealing with the limitations, unfortunately, vis-a-vis by the PC port.
Yeah.
So we probably should talk about those differences. Actually, as a matter of fact, that's a good that's a good point to bring it up. There were a lot of changes under this game versus the original computer version of the game. We already mentioned the controls, how the controls had to be shoehorned onto the controller.
Oh yeah.
The two other major ones that two other major changes, and I'm talking in broad strokes here. I'll go into details of this later on. Like plot changes, and the violence was reduced to meet was used in the game to meet Nintendo standards.
Right.
Because this game, Nintendo was still trying to do kind of family-friendly games, primarily in the console. So, let's go down some of the changes here real quick. The opening scene, the introduction of the game is different. Slightly different, not major difference, but there are some differences.
The gargoyles try to kill you still, so there's that.
Changes made to the game to fit the NOA guidelines. Alcoholic drinks were taken out, of course.
Which makes the pub useless. I don't even know if you could get alcohol in the base game.
No, the PC game has booze.
Okay.
This game does not. Like I said, the Ultima games were designed for adults, so it's perfectly okay for an adult to drink because.
Is it though? Is it alright for an adult to drink?
Most adults can handle their booze just fine.
Sometimes too much is just one. Anyway, go on.
For some reason, some of the spell names are changed. Destroy was renamed from Kill, and Great Awaken was renamed from Resurrect. So I have no idea what happened there. There was blood and gore in the PC version of the game, taken out.
Oh yeah.
Taken out here. You could do a lot more stealing in the PC version of the game, but like opposed to this version of the game. You're not allowed to kill the Lord British like most town folks. Like this version of the game. And if people caught you stealing, like the original PC version of the game, they could attack you. That's a holdover from all the Ultima games. In this version of the game, they do nothing. They're just like, okay, whatever.
They just say, no.
Bad. Changes at the game due to being on a cart as opposed to being on floppy disk or CD-ROM, because this game was CD-ROM also later on. Obviously, copy protection questions are gone. You can't import character data from earlier Ultima games, obviously. You can't access the debug menu, obviously. In the beginning, at the beginning of the CD-ROM version, George mentioned this earlier. You could create your character by answering the questions, and can you also pick the gender of your character? This is all gone in the Super NES version, your version of the game. In the original PC version of the game, you can make one of your characters go off by themselves, just like in solo mode if you wanted to.
Wait, are you sure? Wait, solo mode isn't a thing in the SNES version?
It is for your guy. I'm talking about the kid.
Okay. You can't control your other party members.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. So, in the PC version of the game, characters you talk to had portraits.
Yes.
Your characters in the PC version of the game also said a mantra, every time they cast a spell. The only place mantras are mentioned here are in a couple of books. In the PC version,
who reads books?
Yeah. In the PC version of the game, the balloon was not as helpful because you had to rely on the wind in that game to go anywhere, which made more sense because, of course, it's a balloon. Balloons are operated by balloons are powered by wind. So, if you had a magic fan or a fan but flies by wind change, then you could steer it better. Since there's no wind in this version of the game, both the item and the spell went bye-bye. Unfortunately, so the balloon would have been nice to get around the game with. So that one I kind of miss.
Wait, the balloon was removed?
Yes.
That's weird. I thought I saw some gameplay for this version and there was a balloon.
Oh, sorry. No. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. I apologize. I apologize there. I misspoke. The balloon's still here. The magic fan and the spell wind change are gone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So in the PC version of the game, you had to manually play the song "Stones" on your your keyboard, like one character, to advance in the game. In this version of the game, it's done for you automatically. In the PC version of the game, you could your one character is like make staves for you. And these staves operate similar to the energy wand, fire wand, the cast a spell that you enchanted on. For example, you could have so you can have destroy wands and stuff like that. All you had to do is all you had to do for him to make you staves, be able to bring him a staff. For some reason, they took all this out to the Super NES version. I'm not sure why. So, and finally, there are a ton of spells missing in this version of the game. A ton of spells. So there's a lot less magic available for you like this version of the game. Probably the main reason they made all these changes like memory sizes on the carts. Unfortunately, so. Tricks you could do in the PC version of the game you can't do here. You can't use animate and clone on magic items to basically make infinite items because the spells are not here. Same goes for same goes for pickpocketing food like animals. You can't recruit a mysterious party member in this version of the game like could the PC version of the game by digging up a character, a skeleton actually like from a grave. In the PC version of the game, your party size is maxed out to 8 characters. But if only 4 could be used in battle. In the card, you can only have 6 members at a time. But on the bright side, all 6 can join you in battle.
Huh.
PC version of the game, Sherry is used as Sherry's an normal party member. In this game, like she's just an item. The instruction manual mentions an enemy known as the Silver Serpent that's supposed to be in the serpent that's supposed to be in this game. But for some reason the character of the enemy never shows up. Like the Superman's version of the game. Bug perhaps? Oversight? Not sure. So there's some glitches. There's some glitches in the game. Also, you can also do bonus hit items like your inventory by doing like a certain sequence a sequence of commands, and you can also use a glitch to get as many oil as you want to.
Of course.
Yeah. So those are all the changes. They're pretty significant changes, but I think overall, I only played about 6 hours of this game. Overall, the plot changes and the overall gameplay changes are still. They hurt the game a little bit, I think, but the overall feeling of an Ultima game is still there.
It's a close enough port.
Yeah, converting this game to the console was always very difficult. I don't think any of the Ultima games ported very well over the consoles, but at least they still played like Ultima games at least.
Right.
Even this watered down version of the game. So, having said that, George, you expressed real frustration about having to pick this game. You already touched upon some of it. I suspect you also had gameplay issues.
Getting into a battle is fine. There's nothing wrong with fighting, really. I think the biggest problem was the way that the leveling system works, and that there's only 8 levels, and to level up, you need to get to shrines, but shrines are overtaken by the gargoyles, so you need to fight the gargoyles. But if you don't have good enough stuff, then you're going to get killed by the gargoyles a lot of times, and you're just going to lose all that XP you gain from other battles, and it can be a vicious loop. If I don't know if it's like if it's about being like getting lucky or what, but it was just difficult to get anywhere in this game.
That's a common frustration because all the Ultima games use the living system kind of like similar to that.
But I mean, like, it's not like to level up. It's not like other games where you have that kind of system to level up. It's not like, oh hey, you gotta go to the shrine. Oh wait, the shrine has enemies and they're probably going to kill you, so you can't level up. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not all the Ultimas did that. There were some that you kind of automatically leveled up, but I think most of them, I think you have to go to a shrine.
Yeah, most of them either had to go to a shrine or talk to Lord, British,
right?
To like advance levels, which sometimes you didn't want to do because if you advance levels, you become stronger. Yes, but stronger monsters also appear like in the world,
right?
So it was a real give and take in those games. There's multiple philosophies about how best to approach that. So yeah, I mean, like, I definitely share that frustration too. I mean, like, I had that same frustration like in the PC version of the game as well. So I mean, like, so that's not new to this version of the game. So I mean, you just have to be like, very, very prepared and just like, be patient. I mean, this game requires a lot of patience, a lot of grinding, a lot of like, if you're not using cheats, if you're not using like a walkthrough as you play, there's a lot of like looking around, trying to follow vague clues, trying to figure out how to do this or how to do this, how to go there, or whatnot, and it can be very frustrating.
Right.
So I mean, like,
yeah.
If you play this game, I definitely recommend like looking at spoiler-free walkthrough first. There's a couple of those available like online, and like I said, the PC version of this game came with maps, so no harm having a map either. So overall, George, I guess that your overall frustration of the game came a combination of the interface, like of the gameplay.
I mean, the interface is something you could get around. The gameplay, yeah, when the game makes it difficult for you to progress, it's kind of a problem, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, like, these games, these games hark back to an olden time where, like, things were done like very, very differently, and like, it can be very difficult for somebody of this, like this year. 2017, like, 2018, like, record this.
Whoa.
Yeah, we're in March already. Still making it air. Yeah,
we're still doing that. Yeah, but like, I mean, like, also on top of that, as much as I play, like, there wasn't really that much exploration either. There's a lot of just like follow this road and follow that road, and I didn't really find much. I didn't really find areas that really went off the road. There were some, but like they were traps, basically.
Well, the gargoyles like live in their own world.
Right. And I understand, too. Like that's pretty much the whole game, but also just like walk around this world. There was nothing. It felt almost dead. It was like stagnant. Almost nothing going on except for the gargoyles. A
lot of the Ultima games had that flaw too. Until the more recent ones, that's hardly new here.
Yeah, that's a shame.
But I mean, but again, like this RPG was designed for different people, to view different people, like in different time periods. So, So yeah, I mean, like, the Ultima games can be very tough to go back to nowadays and play, regardless like of what game that it is, even the newer ones, because they use systems and concepts and ideas that are not really utilized too much anymore these days. So I think like a lot of the frustrations that you expressed there, George, definitely can be kind of a you definitely can like you have to go into the game understanding that and kind of like overcome it, I think. So,
I mean, the way that this game plays is quite different to a lot of other RPGs of the time that you would play.
Mm-hmm.
especially with the whole like shrine system. I can't think of other games where you would have to go somewhere to specifically level up. Maybe like put in like skill points or something, but leveling up in general, I can't think of anything.
Yeah. There was a little bit about that in the Might Magic series, but yeah, the Ultima series definitely made it like unique. But the Ultima series, the Ultima series, like was always about that. They always emphasize the shrines. The shrines are a huge degree. So, I mean, the gameplay basically is the same for all the Ultima games. The only difference, the major differences for them are the story, and how you're actually getting about going from point A to point B, and what you're doing once you get there.
Right.
The actual approach is the same way to it, and it's a very difficult, patient, thorough approach, and you have to go into that game with that mindset. So I certainly understand your frustration with this game. I liked it. I liked it just fine. I thought it was an okay port to Super NES. I think it pales in comparison to the original PC version of the game, but as far as the console version of the game, it captured the essence of the game, even though they cut out quite a bit. I would probably only, recommend playing this game in this version. Nowadays, if you're a real big Ultima fan, I want to see how it plays, but. I think for when it, I think for when it came out, it's perfectly fine. It's it's playable. So I think it's like an okay game. It does make me kind of curious to see some of the other Ultima games in the system to see how they compare to this one.
Yeah. And
you probably have no interest at all playing that George after this game.
I don't want to go back to this game because it's too much. And I don't know, it just doesn't really feel that rewarding either.
Do you have any interest possibly a year or so checking out Ultima 7?
Yeah, I want to check that out. I have the Master System version of 4. Well, I mean, I have all of the Ultimas. I think it's all of them on Origin, but I have the Master System version of 4 and I have the NES version of 4. I want to check those out.
Yeah. I'm also curious to see how Runes of Virtue 2 is, because like I said, that's that was designed for a console, a Game Boy, but
right.
A Game Boy, but you know what I mean.
A handheld console, you might call it.
Yeah, it wasn't ported over to somewhere else.
It was made for it.
Exactly. Right. So, I mean, Super NES version's a port of the Game Boy version, but the Game Boy version was original game. But you get what I mean.
Yes.
I didn't talk about the bugs. The bugs this game has. There's some pretty major bugs. I'm not sure if you ran into. I'm not sure if you ran across any of these, George. But did you see any of the discard sprites that happened because of battles?
I don't think I noticed any of that.
Yeah. Sometimes when you get into fights with demons, for example, they can put your characters both to sleep and charm at the same time.
Yeah.
And that can cause sprites to that can cause your character sprites to either vanish or become messed up.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
It only lasts. It only lasts until the character wakes up, like when the battle ends. But it can make it. But it definitely can make it more difficult to see where's your character, where'd he go to. So
right.
Also, sometimes with certain enemies, for example, like Zoltan's group is the prime example of this, I guess, but it can happen occasionally with some other enemies. Only one or two of them appeared, as opposed to an entire group. Which makes it frustrating because you need to talk to this guy right away, and there's not the people they're supposed to be there. So. Also, speaking of battle flaws, if you're fighting dragons or drakes, sometimes there'll be so many enemies on screen at once, and so much happening that the game basically crashes. The battle engine gets stuck, and then your only option is to restart the game.
Oh, great!
Also, certain ROMs in this game may have a bad dump. This is a problem that plagued a lot of our Super NES games early on, actually, and they never quite fixed this problem like this game. If you use the bug manifests itself in that certain versions of the ROM. If you use a Moonstone, you won't be able to dig it back up. So that means you can't get the Moonstone back.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, so like
I know how to get the Moonstone back. You die.
So basically, if you're emulating the game and you're not sure which version of the game you have, save first, and then try that out and see what happens. Also, the last bug, and this one I definitely ran into, you lose karma sometimes, like for no reason. It just happens.
Really?
Yep.
I couldn't tell because I kept dying.
It's particularly grievous in dungeons.
Huh. Wow.
So, yeah, some of those bugs were kind of suggest. Yeah, some of those bugs kind of suggest a very sloppy development cycle.
I'd say.
So I really don't know what happened, but So, George, did this game spoil you on playing any of the Ultima games?
No.
I mean, like I said, we are gonna check out Ultima 7, at some point in the future, but
And I'm looking forward to it because that game's actually pretty different.
Yeah, it is because it's part of a new trilogy. Like, it's different, like GameStop play because of that.
Well,
But,
also it's not anywhere near the PC version.
I wouldn't know. I haven't tried it yet. So, but yeah, we'll have to check that out. You check that out like some later point. So yeah, curious game, very interesting, very important game in history, I think. With a lot of unique ideas and concepts when it came out. The Super NES port of the game, like I said, was fine when it came out, but unless you're like a big die-hard Ultima fan these days, there's really no reason to play this game. Stick to the original PC version of the game, a version of the game you want to play. You're better off that way.
Right.
So, any final thoughts about this game, George, before we move on?
No. Probably not going to go back to it because it's just, I don't know, at least for me, it's just way too difficult, way too much there.
Yeah, well, I have no desire to go back to it either, like I said. So,
there you go.
Yeah, but at least this version of the game. The PC version of the game, I may eventually play again, but... not for a while, I think, because these games require a lot of time.
Yeah.
So this game's pretty common. It's pretty common, like on eBay, if you're looking for it. 42 copies of the game recently. 42 copies of the game are currently listed. 35 of them. 35 of them, are recently sold. Prices are not that bad. They don't have quite the wide disparity in prices that earlier games who covered the last several episodes do. Card only can range anywhere from $8 to $20. And CIB version of the game can run anywhere from $27 to $69. So expensive, but not that bad. I mean, I compared to some other games because I'm sure this game did. I'm sure this game did not get a huge print run.
Yeah.
The Japanese version of this game is much more common. By the way, much more cheaper for reasons that we mentioned earlier. So yeah, the manual of this game, though, if you buy the game card only, I definitely recommend looking up a copy of the manual online. The manual is extremely helpful. Gives you a lot of hints, tips, suggestions, that kind of stuff. So for $8, yeah, I think it's as far as the collection goes, $8 is your fair price to pay for it.
80?
8.
I thought you said 80 for a second.
No, 8.
Jeez.
Yeah,
sure. I'm not gonna buy it because I don't want it, but $8, sure, why not?
Yeah. If you dislike this version of the game, I strongly recommend staying away from the Commodore 64 version of this game because that game's even rougher.
Really?
They had to make some serious compromises. The game to fit on an 8-bit system. So. So I think that pretty much wraps up this episode. Interesting game. I don't regret playing it, George. You may regret having picked it, but I had some fun with it. So I mean, like I said, I won't go back to it, but it's fine for what it is.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go. I don't think I'm gonna go back to it.
So, next time, we're going to be handling another port of a game, but this time an arcade port, and hopefully a game that George likes better. We're going to be handling the arcade port, Midway's arcade games, Total Carnage, which is the pseudo-sequel to Smash TV. Made by the same designers and using the same game engine.
Yeah, it's. I think that's going to be fun.
It's always fun, like running and gunning. You're running and gunning, like killing terrorists.
Right? Yes.
So anyway, thank you again. Always for your support. I would very much appreciate it. We are a proud member of both the Throwback Network and Retro Junkies, where you can find a whole bunch of other great retro themed podcasts, both gaming and non-gaming related. We are available on Facebook. Please check us out. Check us out there and give us a like or give us some comments and feedback. We're always open suggestions for games to play as well. If you wish, you can also send us an email directly to the SNES podcast at the SNES podcast at yahoo.com. We also are available on iTunes. Please check us out there and give us a rating and rating and review. Sorry.
I was wondering what you were talking about.
We've been going for a while. So, also, we have a very special idea being coming up like 100 episodes in a few months. I don't want to announce it quite yet because we're still kind of working.
We're bringing cats and dogs on the podcast.
Close to that.
Wait, what? How is that close to that? What?
So, so I guess we can toss out the broad concept right here. We still need to finalize all the details and whatnot. But we're going to be doing a draft episode, not just one but two draft episodes because the interest that interest that this showed. Draft episode basically is a concept that other podcasts done before in the past, where people go in a random order picking their favorite games for a system. So we're going to do 5 games, your top 5 games of the system. So when I said 2 episodes, because of the fact that we reached out to a bunch of other fellow podcasters, most of which have been on this podcast before in the past, and interest is good enough that we're going to have the need to have 2 podcasts because if you get that many folks on podcast, it's going to get crazy. So that episode's planned for June sometime, so we will announce more details and announce more details as it gets closer. But should be a good turnout and should be a lot of fun to do. So
we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it should be fun. George has never done a draft episode before. Because I did one a couple years ago with Phil and the Pie Factory guys for the No Swear Gamers, the 700 Game by Game podcast. So that was a lot of fun to do. So anyway, George, where can we find you at and what other podcasts do you do?
Oh boy, so you and I do PlayStation Power.
Yes, we do.
And that's fun. But I also do Master System Masterpieces, where we cover Master System games. And, you can find me on Twitter if you want, at Mr. Chief. That's at MISTURCHEEF. And if you're interested, I put out videos on YouTube. You can check those out as well. Same name, same spelling as my Twitter handle. That's basically it.
Cool. Well, as always, many thanks again for you listening to this. For all of you out there listening to this podcast, we very much appreciate it. And we will see you again in 2 weeks. So take care, everybody, and check out an Ultima game like you've not played before in the past. It's a great series that really did a great series. A lot of people have overlooked these days. It's definitely a very groundbreaking, important franchise, game development, video game development. So yes, I think most of the games are still pretty fun today. So let's play a game you haven't played one before.
And if you want to carry your bagels easily, use an old CD spindle as a bagel tote.
That works.
It does.
So just as long as you don't mind that funky aftertaste.
Well, I mean, I would think you would clean it first. Come on, Craig.
And on that note, I'm very hungry, so let's end this. Goodbye, all. Take care.
See ya.
Nintendo controls 80% of the video market. But no matter how you play the game, or which game you play, things definitely have come a long way since Pac-Man. Now you're playing with power. Super power.